Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. We will wait for a few minutes, maybe 2 to 3 more minutes, just in case more people want to join. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
はい、すいません。聞こえます。Okay, thank you for waiting. We will now start the webinar. So, hello again, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Akiko, and I'm thrilled to guide you through this crucial aspect of professional translation. So, as you can see, today's topic is mastering revisions, interpreting feedback, and perfecting your translation. In this session, we will explore how to effectively handle revisions and feedback to elevate your translation quality and also client satisfaction. So, first of all, why do revisions matter? Well, revisions are not just corrections. They are opportunities to refine your skills and align with clients' expectations. High-quality translations depend on collaborative effort, where feedback plays a key role. So I'm just going to quickly go through some benefits of a revision process. Firstly, revisions help identify areas for improvement, such as terminology, grammar, or style. They encourage ongoing learning and mastery of the target language. Secondly, feedback ensures that the translation meets the client's intended purpose and preferences. It allows translators to better understand the client's specific terminologies or tone requirements. Also, addressing revisions improves the final output, and it leads to higher client satisfaction, because revisions ensure the accuracy, consistency, and adherence to the project guidelines. And finally, embracing feedback fosters positive relationships with clients and also quality analysis. It demonstrates professionalism and commitment to excellence. So what we would like to emphasize here is that we share feedback, and not to criticize your translation, but to guide you through by spotting potential problem areas to improve the quality of your translation further. Okay. Now let's start by addressing some common challenges, such as vague feedback, subjective references, or conflicting comments from different stakeholders. Recognizing these challenges will help us develop a strategic approach to revisions. So for the first challenge, vague feedback is where you receive comments like, make it more formal, or this doesn't feel right. And as you see, these kind of comments may seem to lack specificity, right? And it's kind of hard to act on this comment. So to address this challenge, you can seek clarification by asking targeted questions to understand the intention of such comments. And the second challenge, which is subjective preferences. In some cases, different stakeholders have personal preferences for aspects like tone, word choice, or style. And balancing these preferences while maintaining translation accuracy can be a bit of a challenge. And in such cases, you should prioritize client guidelines and key project requirements to navigate subjectivity. How about the case of conflicting feedback? So sometimes you receive feedback from multiple stakeholders and they contradict, such as where one is asking for simpler language and another preferring technical jargon. So in this case, what you can do is to consolidate feedback by identifying common priorities and discussing conflict with the client for alignment. Another challenge you might face is a time constraint. If you have limited time for revisions, this can lead to rushed corrections and overlook the details. To avoid this, you can plan and allocate time effectively for thorough revisions. Let's have a look at how feedback can be categorized for a more focused revision process. First category is tone mismatch and verbosity. So these involve issues where the tone doesn't match the intended audience or the text is overly wordy. For example, formal text may sound too casual or the other way around. The second category is terminology errors and factual inconsistencies. And these occur when incorrect terms are used or details don't align with the source. And this is crucial for maintaining accuracy and client expectations. And the third category is layout errors and inconsistent fonts. These include visual issues like misaligned text, inconsistent font usage, or improper formatting, which can impact the file's professional appearance. We will now have a look at a systematic way to approach revision. Here there will be quite a lot of information, so I will try to explain as clearly as possible, but if please let me know if something is left unclear, okay? So the first step in the revision process is to understand the feedback. In this step, first you need to review the comments holistically by reading through all the quality inputs before making changes. And this will help identify patterns or recurring issues. It's also important to categorize feedback by separating comments into categories like mistranslation, style-related, terminology, or consistency, or formatting. And if the feedback you receive is ambiguous, then you can consult the quality team or refer to the project guidelines for clarification. We also recommend that you enable track changes and use split screen mode to keep a record of revisions for transparency and easy review. You can display the source text, target text, and feedback side by side to understand the context better. You should also keep glossaries, style guides, and a terminology list handy to cross-check revisions. The second step is to interpret quality comments. For example, if you receive feedback regarding mistranslation and other accuracy issues, you should first verify source meaning by cross-checking the flagged areas with the source text to understand the intended meaning. And then you can check the context by evaluating how the segment fits into the overall text to ensure meaningful corrections. If the feedback you receive is regarding terminology and consistency, then you can check the approval terms to ensure that suggested changes align with project-specific glossaries or client preferences. And then you should also ensure consistency across the document by applying corrections uniformly to all occurrences of a term or a specific phrase. And finally, if you receive a feedback regarding the style and the fluency, then you can assess the tone and style to ensure that revisions match the audience's expectations, whether it should be formal, informal, or technical. And here you should avoid overcorrections and stick to feedback that enhances readability and coherence without unnecessary rewrites. Let's move on to the third step, which is systematic revision. Here in this step, it's important to prioritize feedback. By prioritizing feedback, I mean to start working on critical errors first. The critical errors are those that affect meaning or accuracy, such as mistranslation and omissions. And after correcting these critical issues, then you can move on to addressing secondary issues such as stylistic, formatting, and other minor errors. In this step, it's also important to work in segments. What you can do is to divide the text into smaller sections to focus on each set of comments to reduce the chance of oversight. And it's also very important to check for ripple effects. And this is regarding the impact of the changes you make. And this is to ensure that the revising one segment doesn't introduce inconsistency elsewhere. So it's the case where you, for example, make a word choice change in one segment. And then in that case, you have to check the rest of the text, the rest of the document to see if the same word is used elsewhere. And then you can make the same edits in the places where the word is used. Here in this step, you can also use tools in your computer-assisted tool software, if it's applicable, to apply global changes to repetitive errors. The fourth step is to ensure quality after revisions are made. You can use quality assurance tools to check for new errors introduced during revisions, such as whether there are any untranslated segments or any new spelling errors introduced. In this step, you can self-review and compare the revised text with the original feedback to confirm all inputs were addressed effectively. Optionally, what you can do here also is ask for peer review. If possible, you can have a colleague or an editor review your revised work to catch any missed issues. And finally, in this final step, you can check the formatting and layout. Here you will address any formatting errors by checking for overlooked formatting issues like font mismatches, hidden text box, or alignment problems. And then you can reconfirm layout after the revisions by reassessing the document layout to ensure it aligns with the client specification. So sometimes you make revisions in the file and they kind of distort the original layout or formatting. In that case, you need to either do the basic formatting to rectify this kind of issues, or you can highlight these. Now let's have a look at some examples and tips for perfecting your translation. I would like this part of the presentation or the session to be interactive. So here we'll show some examples of feedback or the situation, and I would like you to share how you would react or respond in such situations. Okay. So the first example is where you receive a feedback regarding mistranslation or omission. For example, imagine you have received a feedback that says the term deposit is mistranslated as down payment and it needs to be corrected to align with financial terminology. Or regarding an omission. The source text mentions terms and conditions, but this is missing in the translation. So in case you receive these kinds of feedback, how would you address? You can unmute yourself to share your approach, or you can write it using the chat function. Do we have any volunteers who want to share? Okay, we have response by one of the attendees. I'm just going to read it out. Check if the comments are valid, good point, and then implement them if they are, and thank the quality team for noticing. Okay, that's a really good standard approach, I think. Thank you very much. So first, I think it's important also, to verify if the comment actually is, valid and actually changes needs to be made in your translation. Do we have any other responses? Okay, I will share what we recommend regarding how we can address this kind of feedback. So first, what we can do is interpret the feedback, or as our attendee suggested, to check if these kind of comments are valid. So here in this particular example, it's important to understand that deposit refers to money held as security, while down payment is an upfront payment for purchase. Then you can update the translation of deposit to its accurate equivalent in the target language. So in this case, imagine you're translating from English to another language. Then after revising that portion, you will check for consistency and using your cat tool to locate and correct all occurrences of deposit throughout the document. And then I think we can follow the same step as well for omission. First, we can interpret the feedback to realize that there's a whether or to verify whether there's actually an omission, and if there is, to realize that there's actually a critical omission of a phrase, which is important in the portion of the text. Then revise the file by adding the term and the conditions to the appropriate section, ensuring that it fits seamlessly into the text. And then finally, you can verify the completeness by cross-checking the source and the target for any additional omissions. So if we find a few omissions in the file, that means that there are probably more omissions in the rest of the document as well. So it's important to check the file entirely again to ensure that the document is free of omissions. Let's move on to the next example. So here you have received feedback regarding the use of the style. It reads as, avoid overly formal tone in marketing text and revise for a conversational style. In this case, again, we can follow the same step and interpret the feedback to recognize that the client's request is for a more engaging, reader-friendly tone. Then you can revise the sentences or applicable sentences. So in this case, for example, if your original translation is, our services are designed to meet the highest standards of excellence. And if you receive the feedback regarding the style, how would you change this original translation? Can anyone share a revised sentence? Okay, we have one suggestion here. We can help you and your team work to the highest standard. I like that this option. It's really concise and it's easier to understand. Thank you very much. I think this is a really good suggestion we have here. Do we have any other suggestions? So what this attendee has just shared is already a really good example of a revision, but I would like to share another revised version from our side as, another example that you can consider. We are here to provide you with top-notch services you can trust. So you can take this as, another approach, another revision option as well. And after you revise the example sentence, what you can do is to cross-check the file and apply the conversational tone consistently across the document. So instead of, if the comments like this are global, like, not to a specific sentence, then you can check the other portion to ensure that the stylistic changes made are consistent throughout the file. Let's have a look at the third example. So say you have received a feedback which is regarding fluency. Sentence is awkward. Please rephrase for smoother readability. Okay, so here again, we can first try and interpret the feedback to identify why the sentence feels awkward, whether it's because it's too wordy, unclear, or just poorly structured. I have another example sentence here. So you imagine the original translation reads, the team was able to successfully deliver the project on time despite the many challenges faced. And you are asked to make it more fluent. So what kind of changes would you make? How would you revise this sentence? No volunteers for this example? Should I just share our suggestions? Okay, we have one suggestion from one of our attendees. I will read it out. Okay, let's see. Against all odds. I like that part. The team fulfilled their commitments. Okay, so these revision suggestions made a sentence much more concise and fluent while maintaining the intended meaning of the original translation. Thank you very much for sharing your suggestion. And let's see if we have other suggestions. Okay, I will share our revision example. The team successfully delivered the project on time, overcoming numerous challenges. So this version is not as concise as what our attendee has just suggested, but still it makes the sentence more concise, removing unnecessary portions. And in cases where you receive fluency related feedback, you can also read aloud the revised sentence and to check for fluency and whether it sounds natural or not. Okay, let's move on to the final example. So here it's a bit different from other example. This is where you receive ambiguous feedback. I think some of you might have faced this kind of challenges, okay? Where you receive feedback, but you are not sure exactly what you're supposed to do, what kind of revisions you're supposed to make. Okay. So here, for example, you might have received feedback like, this transition feels unnatural. Please consider revising. So, in such cases, how would you suggest to address the feedback? I think this is related to something we have covered in the portion where we explain the different steps in the revision process, or even before that part. So as we have mentioned in somewhere during the presentation, what we can do first is, of course, seek clarification, where, if the comment is vague, ambiguous, then you can ask the quality team for specific guidance on what feels unnatural, or you can, even ask for an example. Okay, we have a comment by attendee. I would look carefully at the relevant section of the text and try to figure out the issue. But sometimes it's still unclear what the QT means, and you have to ask for further clarification. Yes, that's exactly what I was about to explain. Thank you very much. This is a good approach because this attendees is that it's important to first carefully look at the relevant section, before getting directly back to the quality team. And then he also says that, he would try to figure out first what the issue is. But then the issue is still not clear, then, you can come back to us, asking for, specific examples or further clarification, more detailed explanation. Then after get sufficient clarification on the feedback or the comment, you can reassess the content to evaluate if the sentence flows logically and aligns with the tone of the document. Then, in the revision process, if the original translation said, the product is having a good sale currently, and the quality team's request was to revise to enhance the fluency to make it more natural. Then how would you revise this original translation? I think Again, we can have different approach to this as well. There will be multiple options for this revision. We have one suggestion. This product is currently selling well. That's actually almost the same as what we're about to suggest. The product is currently selling well. So that this revised option we suggest, and also our attendee has just suggested, is more fluent, more natural from the perspective of English native speaker. We have just presented our suggestions well, but if you have different options, different revisions, you can also share as well if there are any more volunteers. Okay. Before moving on to the summary, I will share some tools and methods that can help the revision process. We should proactively use computer-assisted translation tools to ensure consistency in terminology. We can also use grammar checkers to refine the tone and also linguistic accuracy of the translation. It's also important to check the reference guide to understand specific client needs. So those are things, but basic techniques or tools or even methods that we can apply, and it's actually, make some differences in the quality of a translation. So now I will summarize what we have covered during today's session. So first, it's important to adapt a collaborative approach because collaboration is key and building a professional rapport with clients and editors ensure smooth communication. The ideal posture is to appreciate constructive feedback and demonstrate your willingness to improve. Like I said in the beginning of the session, our goal is not to criticize your translation. It's more like, to guide you through any challenges you may face in the translation process. It's also important to develop a deep understanding of target audience and stay updated on linguistic trends. We also strongly recommend that you regularly review your past work and learn from it. So you can take note of recurring mistakes so that you can improve your process for further projects. Thank you very much for your attention. Now, I would like to open the floor to your questions. We'd like to hear about your experiences with revisions and feedback or any challenges you have faced. Also, if you have any questions regarding what we have covered during the session, any specific part of the presentation that you might have doubts about, then you can share it during this part of the session. As always, you can unmute yourself to share your feedback, questions, comments, or you can write them down in the comment or using the comments, no, the chat function.
Oh yeah.
Hi.
So when I get feedback, I always have a look first carefully to see, what the feedback might mean and how to implement it. So I always take that step first. But then sometimes the feedback uh either seems wrong to me or is clearly would introduce an error. But I'm not always sure how to respond in that sort of case because it can feel a bit sort of confrontational to point that out sometimes. But what is there like a procedure for dealing with when you either you think that feedback might be incorrect or when it that there is clearly an error that it would introduce?
Okay, yeah, I understand your concern here. Sometimes, as you just said, sometimes you feel that the feedback isn't correct and no revision should be made in that particular portion, right? Um, so I personally believe that to a large extent, translation is still a really subjective business, and you might see that the opinions of other stakeholders are not relevant or even incorrect. Or in that case, the comments by the quality team. Then I think in that case, you can leave a comment, not like any extensive comment or anything, but you can leave like a brief comment explaining why you think there's no need to be there's no need to make any revisions, because of this, because the intended meaning of the text is this, hence the translation is already correct, right? So I think that's one of the things you can do. I'm not sure if that answers your questions.
Yeah, like I guess it's like you're having a conversation about it, and they've said their opinion, and then you say your opinion, and then
Yeah.
that goes
So
out
in
to the
the
rest.
so in the end, you will have to, make a call on, and then when you um, when you think that your translation is accurate and correct, and the terminology is also correct, then you can provide, your argument, right, to back up your translation. And also you can refer to any instructions shared by the client, or you might do some background research regarding the specific project, and then based on understanding from the background research, then you can, phrase your response as well. So I think you will have more extensive, better idea of the client and the project itself, because sometimes what we do is to check the, overall performance or overall quality of the translation, and may not be aware of the, the other parts of the other aspects of the translation. So if you have, for example, done some research by yourself and you are certain that your translation is correct, you can communicate it to us as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any other questions, or anyone else has other comments, feedback? I would like to just add that, like, in addition to what I've just responded to one of our attendees, that, for example, we may share comments like this translation is unclear, or the phrasing is a bit awkward, or it's not natural, it's not fluent, something like that, and you still think like, well, it's still clear, but it's still fluent to me, right? Then you can take this kind of feedback as, something suggestive, because sometimes you read both the source, read and understand both the source and the target languages, right? So you obviously know what the source is trying to say and what your translation is trying to say. But sometimes for someone who's reading only the translated text, it's not really clear about the intended meaning. So it might be the case. And I think it's important that from the viewpoint of someone, a third person, the translation may be unclear or may sound unnatural. Okay, and if there's no more comments or questions, I will wrap up the session for the day. And, before we wrap up, I will highlight this again, to please remember that feedback is a gift and not a critique, okay? And you can embrace it and your skill will solve. As always, if you have any questions or feedback, please get in touch with us. Thank you very much for joining today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your participation.